Hi there. Today I'm taking a look at a really interesting New Zealand Pinot Noir. So we're in Central Otago and the wine in question is Valli's Bannockburn Vineyard 2018 Pinot Noir. Valli, quite an important producer for this region, if not for the region that Grant Taylor, their winemaker and founder, has been working here pretty much since the region's inception. I mean, he first started making wine in Central Otago in 1993, and at that stage the region only had about 20 hectares of vines. Today there are, I believe, over 2,000 hectares. So you know, it could barely call itself a wine region at that stage. Grant made wine for other people for 5 years, so actually worked with some of the quite a few of the pioneers of the region. And I think his significance, he started Valli in 1998, is that he's one of the first people to really explore the character differences between the different subregions of Central Otago. The name Valli, I should say, comes from the surname of his great-grandfather, who was an Italian immigrant into New Zealand who settled in this area, and it's through him that Grant claims his winemaking heritage, as it were. Valli makes three different single vineyard wines from the Central Otago region. So one from Gibbston Valley, this one from Bannockburn, and also one from Bendigo as well. And they do quite specifically try and emphasize the terroir differences that come out through this. So Bannockburn, quite a dry region. We're at a little altitude, we're at 350 meters, this particular vineyard, with really quite friable soils, deep schistous gravel with quite a large proportion of wind-blown loess and sand. Means that water drains away quite readily here. The fact that they only get 450 millimeters of rain a year, that's only just enough for viticulture, really. So I mean, that all helps to rein in the vigor of the vine quite significantly. But the key influence here is actually the area's warmth, and the fact that it's dry allows the grapes to have a long hang time in a warm area. So you get this sort of really rich, dark fruit, sort of quite almost baked, cooked nature to wines, supposedly from Bannockburn. So let's go on and see if that is the case. Winemaking wise, there's some pretty standard techniques for Pinot Noir going on here. We have a wine that is fermented with about 30% of the stems left in there. So the stems need to be ripe, but they will give woody notes, they'll give quite interesting flavours, and they'll also help keep the fermentation going, because the stems take some air into the ferment as well, so that helps feed the yeast during fermentation. What else? Temperature for ferment is not allowed to go much over 33 degrees, so it's not a hot fermentation. You could be more extractive, you could allow it to go a bit hotter than that, but that stops the yeasts from being shocked and creating off flavours, so that's great. The wine is aged in oak, but only a third of those barrels are new, about 30%, and only for 11 months as well. So not an extended period in oak, a reasonable amount of time. So we're not particularly looking at sort of oak flavour intruding into this sort of thing. So let's see what the wine is like. The first thing to say is you've got quite a developed colour there. It's probably a medium intensity. There's almost some darkness to the red, but it's got this bricky colour, almost brownish around the rim. Considering this is only a 5-year-old wine, that seems quite developed, and so there's not a huge depth at all. Swirling it, it's throwing some tears, but it's a 13.5% alcohol wine according to the label. There's nothing untoward going on there, nothing exceptional. So let's see what the aromas are telling us. gosh, again, the aromas, like the colour, seem very developed. They are, there's very little primary fruit there at all. There's a sort of an earthy truffly note. The truffle high notes are lovely. There's also notes of sort of stewed plum to prune, so that's where there's a little red fruit. High tone, tiny touches of spice, maybe a little star anise in there. And behind it all, there is actually just a little bit of sort of juicy, ripe red cherry fruit poking through, but it's really sort of, you have to look for it quite hard. So let's have a taste and see how that follows through on the palate. I've heard people suggest that the wines of Bannockburn are more structured than other Central Otago Pinot Noirs. There is some structure here, but actually this is a wine of nervosity. Its acidity is what's driving this wine. It's got a freshness, not a freshness leading to juicy red fruit or anything like that, but a freshness leading to those hints of spice, sort of anise, etc., on lifted notes. There's a developed, almost sort of prune-like note, not prune to maybe slightly a touch of cinnamon, as well as sort of lifted note at the end. The red cherry fruit that I saw on the nose isn't following through here. This is much more sort of to, as I say, rhubarb, prune, stewed plum, those sort of developed notes. There's a meatiness to it, and that's where the structure comes in. There's a very fine underlying, slightly drying note to the tannins. Not drying it out, but just giving a sort of a veneered middle to the palate there. The alcohol is not particularly intrusive, but the acidity is fresh, and that's why you're getting these sort of slight spicy anise notes at the very end there. The oak, if that's what's giving the spiciness, is beautifully integrated with the fruit. And what this really reminds me of, actually, is a lovely lovely pommard from Burgundy, just starting to mature, which can be very earthy and inward looking when they're young, and can start to develop this more meaty, truffly, very attractive fruit as they develop. The winery suggests that this can probably be aged for another 10 years. I'd be interested to see if this will develop for that amount of time, whether it's necessary to age it or not. But I think that you could get some quite exciting flavour development in that time if you're looking for a complex wine to go with sort of gamey mushroom notes and that sort of thing. That said, I mean, this is a small production wine. They made 8,675 bottles. So they're small production wines made to express a place and a time as well. And I think that's managed to do that really well. So yes, Valli, Bannockburn Vineyard, 2018 Pinot Noir from Central Otago in New Zealand. Thank you very much for watching. And if you enjoyed it, do watch again. Bye now.